Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily with watches like this. If you like this watch, you can see it and purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. Too much of a good thing? No such thing. This is the Lange Sohne 1815 Rattrapante Perpetual Calander, reference 421032 in 18-karat pink gold, a watch that bowed and amazed, bowed and wowed, if you will, at SIHH 2013. It has a completely different character about it than the more traditional dado. This is a watch that gives you a perpetual calendar, a split-second chronograph, 631 excruciatingly finished Lange movement parts, and the king of complications, a split-second chronograph with the everyday complication, a perpetual calendar. Easy to wear, despite its size. Its largest single dimension is probably its thickness. As you can see, 15.1 millimeters thick, but with a domed bezel, it will slide underneath a jacket cuff. Lug-to-lug, it's a big boy for a Lange, but still under 50 millimeters, so 49.7 millimeters lug-to-lug. I always say for a 14 to 16.5 centimeter circumference smaller male wrist, stick with a watch that's 50 millimeters or fewer lug-to-lug. This watch still fits the bill. 42 millimeters in diameter. Lange says 41.9. I measure 42. Let's split the difference. The timepiece features a broad stance on the wrist. 20 millimeters is the size should you wish to accessorize with a Lange or aftermarket strap option, but the one included is worth keeping. Deeply bolstered. You can see it has immense body and volume. A folded edge, a monotone stitch. It's a sort of medium red-brown with large rectangular scale alligator leather and a semi-gloss finish. The underside, supple calfskin. The clasp, full deployant. Most Lange watches do feature a pin buckle. Even some of the extraordinarily expensive models feature such an accessory. So it's by no means a given that when you buy a Lange, even an expensive one, you'll get a folding buckle. Here, you get a beautiful one, finished inside and out, all of high polish, and immensely massive on the wrist. You feel the heft of it, and it counterbalances the watch. You'll even note that the underside of the clasp is curved to trace the arc of your wrist. That's nice to have because it makes it comfortable, and the mass of the clasp means you can wear the watch loose and it won't try to capsize on your wrist. It acts like the keel of a sailboat. Let's get super close and afford ourselves some more light. The case band is typical Lange, but rather than a satin and polish finish, it's all high polish, reminding you that this is something special. You can see how the lugs are stepped out from the case. The sharp cleft breaks up the expansive metal and prevents it from looking like a monolith. You'll note a few well-chosen horizontal character lines and a subtle beveling of the lug from the hoods to the flank. The bezel is domed, handsome, and elegant, and gives way to a solid sterling silver dial. So the dial is solid silver, the moonphase disc is solid gold. You then have the deposit of the blue on the moonphase disc on top of the gold, and the deposit of this opaline or gently grained silver on top of the silver base. There's a cruciform symmetry to this dial that is incredibly handsome. Split it vertically, split it laterally. The symmetry keeps it balanced. In spite of the large amount of information being conveyed, it doesn't look busy, crowded, or confusing. You will note a few flourishes of color, blue in the power, or in the moon phase, I should say, more blue in the power reserve, as well as chronograph minutes indicator with a blue hand for chronograph and gold for power reserve. A couple of monocounters, in fact, for the date and the day, as well as the leap year phase indication and the month. Red balancing red on opposite flanks of the case. You'll note quarter Arabics in red and a railroad style track outboard. Miniature railroads for the constant seconds at 6 o'clock, and of course a split-second chronograph with one blue hand and one gold hand. The split hand in blue, the constant hand for the conventional chronograph time in gold. Jump right back. Endless fascination, fun, and fiddling during long meetings. At center, for elegance, faceted alpha pinched at their center rather than heavier Dauphine hands, and traditional 1815 style Arabic numerals. Turn the watch over, and by the way, look at the recess inside the dished dial, which has a stepped outer track. You then have individual recesses for the outer scales and the inner scales of all of the monocounters. Beautifully created with the interest of producing depth and achieving that goal. Now, the finest features of the movement are on the caseback. One might even say that the core appeal of the watch is rooted in this mechanism. This is caliber L101.1. So let's talk about everything it brings to the table. Split-second chronograph, right? So let's play with that. you can see not one, but two column wheel assemblies. Two column wheels, both with black polished caps, and the interaction of the levers and horns of the chronographs absolutely beguiling. It will capture your heart and your imagination. To jump back, stop everything, and watch the recentering hammers act at center. I love that spring-loaded bounce back of the center wheel, which features two separate levels of functionality. We'll start it all up again so you can appreciate the operation of the system that decouples the two hands. You will find it never, ever, ever gets old. Let's talk about what you're getting though. 43 joules, 631 parts, manual wind, 42-hour power reserve, beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and you will note a number of traditional German finishing techniques are employed. I should also mention hacking seconds, so the watch can time intervals as large as 122 years with the moonphase and as small as fractions of a second via hacking seconds. You will note that it is a hamburger of a movement, very thick, you can barely see the balance, but each one of these 631 parts double assembled. First it's assembled to make sure everything works and fits. It's then torn down, oiled, lubricated, assembled, and regulated. All of the bridges and plates are what's known as German silver, a nickel copper zinc alloy that is richly golden in hue rather than silvery rhodium plated Swiss brass. You will note freehand engraving of the structures holding the chronograph clutch bridge and then the half bridge for the balance itself. Note that the clutch is fully jeweled. This is not a bushing clutch, helping to reduce wear and tear on a component that typically uses bushings on even luxury chronographs. You will note that the watch featuring column wheels and lateral clutches, easy to see, a pleasure to use. The chronograph column wheels are very crisp in the hand, beaten away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. This is a timepiece that features, if you could tear all of the ancillary chronograph material away, a pocket watch inspired 3/4 grit bridge, glasuta stripes, two types of screws, black polished used for adjustment of the mechanism, and kiln fired oxidized blue used for physical assembly of components. Screws used to fix chaton holding jewels, another throwback to the pocket watch era when screws could be more easily placed with precision and removed for service by placing them in screw-fixed chaton. And ultimately you will notice an abundance of black polish across the movement, as well as straight grain finish on all of the levers of the chronograph mechanism. This is a beautiful composition, and I haven't even talked about the anglage, the rounded beveled edges on everything that has an edge, levers, plates, bridges, all of it beautifully mirrored, glowing and gleaming as I turn the watch flush to the camera. Guys, this is as good as it gets. Too much of a good thing? Impossible. See and own this Lange 1815 Rattrapante Perpetual Calander on the watch box.